Hello, welcome to Tokyo. I'm on the Sumida River here, and just recently a story broke yesterday that on the 13th of September, a security gate guard at Haneda Airport stole cash from passengers that were going through the security gate to check in to their flights, going to the gate, similar to TSA in the United States. And this has created quite a buzz in Japan, more so than it would if it happened in the West, the exact same thing, which has happened before in the West. But I wanted in this stream not just to talk about this incident at Haneda Airport, about the theft, which is not such a huge story, but why it's such a huge story in Japan, because by looking and examining these kinds of things, you really get a better sense of Japan as a country, the society of Japan, and I think that is really fascinating. This is a live stream. If you have any issues with the audio or the pictures, please let me know. I'll try to respond to it as soon as possible. So I got shared this story by a lot of people that watch on the community on our Discord server, which is very close to having 20,000 members on there. Thank you very much, guys, for that. Let's take a look at this video here. So this is the one that a lot of people had shared with me about a reporter who went in here talking about the story of stolen cash from one of the security gates, which is gate C. It didn't say exactly which terminal, but this is the perpetrator, Mr. Matsumoto, and he, of course, confessed of his crime because he was caught red-handed. They had security footage of it, suspicious behavior. Look, in Japan, we're pretty complacent when it comes to this kind of security. A lot of Japanese, we have a lot of trust in the system. And you can see this person right here wrote in here that their trust has been shaken by the result of this in Haneda Airport, not just the security, but the airport in general. We'll talk to you about how this person committed these crimes. But it was fascinating to see this story, not because of the theft, which is not that great. It's about 90,000 yen or $600. That's not a massive amount of money. But in Japan, it's more about the reputation of Haneda Airport and the way that impacts trust in the system. Because Japan is just a lot of systems all put together in many respects. And when you start to lose trust in the system, things start to really break down, because society is built in a special way here that I think a lot of people want to come and move into. In Japan, it undermines a cultural foundation that rules and social order. It's a pretty interesting, rules and social order protect everyone. And if you feel like you're not being protected, everyone's being protected here, then things start to break down and questions start to be asked, and the whole political process, societal process starts to change. And I think that this is an incident that is going to create some more changes, which probably is not to the benefit of anyone to try to make sure that this doesn't happen. You see, I think, like, when we look at the West versus Japan here, like in the West, if we have theft, we think of it as like large scale, organized, high value, but expected as a risk of travel. This kind of an incident, it's going to be something that's going to be quite significant. An iPad would have been more in value, let's say, or a computer, than, $600 in cash. Well, actually, an iPad would be at the same. But in theft in Japan, even small scale, low value, it's culturally devastating because it breaks the assumption of honesty and undermines Japan's international image of order and safety. And it's not just internationally, it's domestic as well. I had a chat back and forth with AI. I found some inconsistencies with the AI, what it was saying, so I questioned it, as all humans should. And you can come down to a general consensus of how damaging this is to Japan's reputation. Not just the one thing, but if this is one of many things that happen, then it really will damage the reputation of Japan. Walter L. Walters, by the way, your postcard just went out. You signed up after the beginning sign-up period, so I have to send Walter your postcard at this time every single month. I literally, Walter, just put your postcard. In fact, you know what, Walter? Here it is, right here. I just put your postcard in the post box from this one here in Tokyo. It went out, so it's on the way. So thank you so much for every time here. Cool off. I'm sweating. It is still, the humidity is a little higher today. The temperature is pretty high, but it's going to cool off because after the rains are coming in, and then the temperatures will die down a little bit. But in a way, I'm kind of soaking this up. some of the heat and the sun, because I know it's on its last legs here. Thank you, Walter, always. Yeah, these types of crimes, these types of things really hurt in Japan, because we're shocked at it, because the system failed. And when the system fails, it's hard because I'm squinting, that's why I have the glasses on. When the system fails, then we start to ask questions about other systems, about things in society. Why did this fail? Especially at Haneda Airport, which has a reputation of being one of the busiest and safest and most, well, you would think the best airport in the world, right behind Changi Airport in Singapore, which is an incredible airport. And in Singapore, if you were to do something like this, my gosh, you probably would be whipped or caned. They have some really strong punishments, which is one way to keep society in order. The other one in Japan is shame. And shame is something that right now is going through a lot of the people who work at Haneda, all the way from, the barista at the Starbucks working in Haneda, all up to the upper management. I don't know, the baggage handlers, the people who have anything to do with working at Haneda Airport. They probably feel a sense of shame because their airport, or where they work, a place that's often a place where they feel pride, has really taken a hit. And it's going to take some work for this to be erased. In Japan, these kinds of marks, they kind of stick around with you a lot longer than they would in the West. And it's just one kid who's 21, but it's the fact that he got hired. They hired this person to check people's luggage, something that's almost sensitive, especially when there's money and valuables there. And the guy was not just one time, but more than one time. Let's look at this. So he worked at, his name is Matsumoto. He worked at a baggage security checkpoint inspector under contract with the Tokyo security firm, guiding passengers through the screening process at Haneda. The triggering incident occurred on September 13th around 6:25 in a domestic flights security checkpoint. So domestic in Terminal 1, so it wasn't an international thing. Matsumoto allegedly stole $90,000 in cash from a tray used for baggage screening, pretending to adjust the passenger's luggage while the victim looked away. In Japan, even cash should be respected. I know for a lot of people in the West, you're probably thinking like, we wouldn't do this. And I think a lot of Westerners, or Easterners too, for that matter, probably wouldn't put cash in the tray and just put it in as it is. But in Japan, we have such amazing trust for the system that even if you did push cash in there, there shouldn't be any issues. In fact, I think I can't remember the total, but millions of dollars of lost cash, which has no potential owner, is somehow, for some reason, cash is returned to the local police departments, and a lot of that is found the owner of lost cash. Japan is very honest in that way, because I think if you did find cash and you kept it, you would feel a sense of real shame in doing that, guilt. But if you give the cash to the police and it goes uncollected, I believe you get to keep that cash after 90 days. I think it is. I talked to the police about this, but it's been years ago. And when the owner comes to collect that cash, the police often ask if you would leave a reward of, like, I think it's 10 or 20%, which if you lost cash, that's a small price to pay, I think. But the fact that cash is returned in is something that's pretty incredible. So we have this feeling in Japan of security that even putting cash on a tray should be a safe thing. Now that's sort of shaken in people's heads as we see this play out in the news media inside of Japan and now internationally, an embarrassing thing. It's raising attention that, yeah, you know what, in this generation, and the guy is 21, personal belongings are not as respected. Japanese, for the last 15 years, have been earning lower wages. Wages have been going down, especially globally. People that are working salary jobs really aren't getting wage increases to keep up with the pace of inflation. And we have had inflation in Japan, believe it or not, after decades of deflation where prices were going down. But Japan could not keep up. It's starting to change a little bit now. But Matsumoto-san here writes in, he admitted to stealing the 90,000 yen in cash, but after his shift, he reportedly hid the stolen money inside a cardboard tube. I'll show you what the news report did, a little skit on this one. Inside a toilet paper roll in the airport restroom stall. So if they did search his persons, I think that's the way the police say it, they could not find the cash, so he could not be blamed. However, they did have video proof. So if he was accused of it, You know, they had videos showing that he was doing something suspicious. He admitted to the police that he stole the money for a thrill. When you get caught by the police and you are guilty, you can rest assured, rest assured is not the right way to say it. You can be assured, without rest, that the police will most likely, and the prosecutors most likely, not just get that confession out of you, but they'll get to the truth eventually. And you might as well confess earlier, because it's in everybody's interest for you to do that. You don't want to go down with the ship on something like this, especially if you're guilty. He also claimed to have committed similar thefts 70 to 80 times since around August of 2025. That's a lot. It makes me wonder, because I've gone through that. I've gone through domestic. Terminal 1 is JAL. Terminal 2 is ANA. So if you've been on a JAL domestic flight going through C, you might want to double check. But 70, 80 times since around August, that's a year. 1.5 million yen, or about $10,000 he's stolen over that time. Not just in cash, probably of items, but rifling through somebody's wallet, or just pinching a couple of 1,000 yen here and there. It might not seem like such a bad thing. And in fact, I think some people in the West might even justify it by saying, all right, and there are some people who would justify theft, because obviously we have a crime issue in a lot of the US cities. They would justify it because he's a low-paid, low-skilled worker trying to make ends meet. He probably needs a little bit of payment. People should tip him and all this. That's probably a very popular, extreme Western thinking these days. But popular, extreme, I don't even know what I'm talking about here. But there are probably people who would defend him. However, in this case, in Japan, there's no way you can defend taking 1 yen. And you will get in trouble if you were to steal 1 yen. 1 yen. I know people who have gotten arrested. I don't know how far it goes, but people who get in trouble for shoplifting, if they go to the supermarket and they forget to scan the barcode on a plastic bag. Since about 5 or 6 years ago, plastic bags are now charged in the city of Tokyo, probably all over the country now. About 5 yen for big ones, 3 yen for bento bags or smaller ones. And there was a story recently, I don't know, maybe about 2 years ago now. Somebody had gotten charged for not scanning the bag, and they left with it, and they got caught, and the police came, and he was held. I don't know what happens. Maybe he has to pay it back or something. But the police came. We don't know what the actions are, because these kinds of records are not given unless it's a heinous crime, I guess. It seemed like a misdemeanor. I'm not sure. It's a good question. But 1 yen is enough for you to get in trouble. So there you go. I mean, it's a pretty amazing story for Japan here. Maybe it doesn't seem so for the West. Let's look at this together to see how this operation worked to the passenger. This is like anywhere else. This is TSA, essentially, in Japan. And he would get the stuff here. And you can see the passenger looks away, and he kind of, boop, puts it right in his pocket. There's a lot of really good people in this industry. It sucks that there's always 1 or 2 people who ruin it for everybody, right? But he was really really deep with his deception here, right? His crime, putting it in a roll of toilet paper to hide it when he went to the restroom. So when the guy noticed it from the gate, they came in and they searched him, and they saw the video footage. This was the guy who took it. Let's check him. And that's another reason why you have to be very careful with your possessions. And he was able to get away with it for 70 or 80 times. That just shows that the system is super broken. The fact that he could get away with it for an entire year without being discovered. And in Japan, that just does not happen. When people are caught of embezzling or stealing, they get down and they do a, hold on a second, the chat's gone for a second here. I really want to get your feedback on this, because I think that everybody's going to have some kind of feedback on this. Okay, here we go. 70, 80 times is pretty incredible. It doesn't seem like a really big deal, but it really is here in Japan. I want to get your take on it. I want to hear what your questions might be, because I don't know. I feel like Haneda Airport really has to answer about this. There's probably going to be a press conference where executives bow really low and ask the public for forgiveness. they feel a great sense of shame, as they should, and by showing that shame, that gives us hope that the system will change, and they understand the gravity of what has occurred. That security company that was hired probably going to get fired. That's going to be a lot of shame for the CEO of that company, probably losing a lot of business. But when you lose the public's trust, you start to lose customers. When you start to lose customers, and an airport can lose customers. People just stop flying. People are going to be taking the JR. There's going to be people. I know it seems like a small thing. There are going to be people who decide to go to Osaka via Shinkansen rather than flying. It's going to hurt JAL's business because this is Terminal 1. It's going to hurt the businesses of the restaurants that are inside there. But more than that, everyone is going to be on guard when they go and through security in Japan. And I have to be honest with you, security in Japan, the sun's gone away a little bit. Security in Japan is really good, and it's really smooth. Meaning I go usually 45 minutes, about 45 to 50 minutes before the flight, not even an hour on a domestic flight, which is going to surprise some Westerners here. I scan the code. There's a automatic luggage collection. Most of the time I don't even check in a bag for domestic travel, but you're able to, the gate opens up. It's like Star Wars, it feels like. This is how Star Wars probably traveled intergalactically. A gate opens up, you put your suitcase in there, you put the tag on there, and this gate magically closes. It looks like something from Star Wars, at least ANA does. And then it dumps it onto the belt. You can't really see the belt. It's all beautifully done, and it's off. Next thing you do, you go straight to the gate. On average, it's 3 to 5 minutes. On average, it's about, I would say closer to 3. Usually there's not even a line. I go straight in. It's so smooth, you can bring liquids on. There's a machine that will check it. They'll ask you very politely, can we check this? And you'll say yes. They'll put it in a scanner. They give it back to you. Everything's okay. You don't even have to take your laptop out now, unless it's a US flight, because there are certain ways that you have to check that are different. That's when you're boarding a US flight, that's when there might be a line. But for domestic flights, the security checks are different. I can say maybe as thorough, but they're certainly different. I'm at my gate. By the time I enter the airport, I'm at my gate about 12 minutes later, which is crazy. And then I have time to get a coffee, go to the restroom, brush my teeth if I want to, get a, we say ekiben, which is for train bentos. We use a kuko, isn't it kuko ben? An airport bento. You can get it because a lot of the places will have these special bento for airplanes, so you can eat it when you're on there. It's not as popular as the ekiben, not as regional, but it's kind of cool to be able to get it. Well, it is regional, but I think most people will just get a sandwich. The flights are typically shorter than it would be on a Shinkansen train, going from A to B. Is that Illum One ads? Illum One ads, Illumin ads, writes in here, see, and all this drama for all the companies involved just for one bad fruit. There is really such shame. Coffee time. Thank you so much. One worker, and I think this is where you really need to get your head around Japanese culture. One worker can completely destroy a business. One incident can destroy a business. Because in Japan, then the reason why there's so much scrutiny within the business, and that's why society is like this, because one bad apple can ruin a neighborhood, can ruin a family, can ruin the harmony of society. And that, after 27 years of living here, I'm acutely aware that I'm being watched, even probably right now. I'm acutely aware that I'm always being watched in Japan. And this is the societal pressure that Japanese feel, because everybody knows that they're being watched to see if you're doing something wrong, kind of judged. And it keeps everybody in line, the societal pressure. Are you underdressed, overdressed? You smiling too much, not smiling enough? There are some people that are judgmental like that. Not everybody, but the older generation, they have a lot of free time on their hands. They're hawkish. And I remember when I first moved here, they were a little bit younger, but I was told by the people at the school I worked at, just people in your neighborhood are always watching. They will, if an underage kid goes to buy tobacco at a vending machine, there's a good chance that one of those hawkish old ladies probably sees you do it and reports you to your parents, and then they take it up and you get slapped around. I don't know what they would do, but that was the greatest security, the greatest security force in Japan are the old ladies and the older generation that is watching everything and keeping society in order. And I think it's always like that. The people who have free time can do that. But in Japan, that's the kind of society it is. That's Asian society, more or less. But in Japan, it really is scrutinized. And when you think about it in that terms, it makes you wonder how this person was not detected the 70 or 80 times before. Total failure of the system. Total failure. And passengers on airlines, they're flying somewhere else. They don't have a lot of time. If they lose 20 bucks, they're probably not too concerned about it. Maybe it dropped out of their wallet. They probably blame themselves because they have trust in the system. That's probably why it wasn't reported in those 70 or 80 times. It could have been the security. And to accuse somebody of a crime, that's a big deal. So it's not something that you see a lot. So when it happened here, I'm sure the person who reported the crime, there was a lot of pushback. I'm gonna dig into this a little bit more and go to your comments here in a second. Alex Paladian writes in here, it is scary to see stuff like this. One smallish thing can shake it up a lot. Hope it can all be resolved, and hope that Dono helps. Yeah, thank you so much, Alex. This is why I want to leave an impression on you that you as a tourist are also under the same kind of scrutiny, but you're a guest here, so the rules don't really apply to you as they would to me, although a lot of people consider me, they see my face, they consider me a tourist if they don't know me, but I do think everybody is very much scrutinized. So one bad individual has a massive impact on the perception that society has on a group in general. Johnny Somali did a lot to damage what I do. He made it harder to get access to certain places. He made society, other Japanese, question whether or not I was doing something good. Instead of seeing me doing something good by what I do, they would assume that it was bad based on one person who was getting so much attention. And that scrutiny was much stronger than if it had happened in a Western country. And you have to, when you come to Japan, no one expects you to change the way you think and see things from a Japanese point of view. I think in many ways it's a skill to be able to put yourself in other people's shoes. It's one thing to do it to people in your own country. It's another thing to do it and put yourself in another person's shoes in another culture. And that's extremely difficult, extremely challenging to do. But if you have that skill to do it here in Japan and understand and learn from what I just told you about how society works here, that guy's parents is probably, his name's all over the news. His picture, even though he's wearing a mask, his neighbors know who he is. His parents are probably, I can't imagine the shame that they feel based on, their son. Maybe they knew, maybe he was a bad egg, but he got hired. That means he knew somebody. He had a pretty good interview. You don't just get hired in these security companies, but without a background check. And he's 21, so he doesn't have much of a track record. But this is another problem. I'm just thinking of it now. There's just not enough people to cover the amount of jobs that there used to be, because there's not a huge younger generation, right? So probably the talent pool is not as great as it used to be. So maybe he was on the lower rung, and it was just, look, we need somebody to cover it. He's 21, he can be trained. Let's do it. I don't know. A lot of 21-year-olds, I don't know. There's a lot less of them now than there were 25 years ago when I got here, you know what I mean? In Japan, there is shock and disbelief as that a security inspector, someone entrusted with passenger baggage and screening, would steal cash. Many voices express that an airport checkpoint should be one of the most trusted places, not somewhere you'd fear theft. So true. You wouldn't expect that somebody would be a thief would be put in this position. And it's up to the airport and the airport security company that's hired to make sure that that doesn't happen. And if it does happen, it's on them as much as it is on the person who stole it. And they're gonna get fired most likely, or reprimanded pretty harshly. There'll be some penalties. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be something. Breach of trust is a recurring theme. Commentators worry, if the inspector is a thief, what can we really trust in an airport setting? So Japanese will go from, this happened one time, it most likely has happened a lot more times. How can we trust? If we can't trust one person, how can we trust everybody else? So once you've broken that wall of trust, that makes everybody in the organization untrustworthy. It's gonna take a very low bow of shame from the CEO and the airport to really start to change the narrative on this story. Calls for stronger oversight. This is something that probably is definitely needed now, but I mean, I don't even know if it's needed. I think it could be a one-off, but there's going to be a desire for a complete structural change so that this never happens again, because he didn't just do it one time, he did it 70, 80 times, he says. Outsourced security is something that is going to be looked at. There's going to be more rigorous hiring process, better supervision. Probably the training is going to be much harder to get this job. The background checks are going to be much harder. They're probably going to look for older people with security, and probably the pay might go up to get more applicants into this industry. A sense of this could happen anywhere, even in Japan. This is something that really it surprised people in Japan because they don't expect it, and this is something you would expect maybe at Heathrow Airport or in JFK or O'Hare Airport. Even though, you know, I want to be honest with you, I've had TSA agents that are the friendliest people in the world that watch only in Japan. Especially during the pandemic when the borders were closed. A lot of TSA, one of them was in Guam, one of the nicest guys. He recognized me. He came from behind the scanner. There's like nobody at the time. We were one of the last people off the flight because of Leo, and we got there pretty late at night. I came around and we took a picture together. Super nice. I mean that's the soul of Guam, anyways. Everybody just has a heart of gold over there that I talk to. But you know, it makes me that's my image of TSA. Actually, is not that bad. I know a lot of people don't have great images. They've got a really tough job based on the rules, but I've never had a bad interaction with the TSA. I know other people have, but everybody has different interactions, I suppose. Everybody's different when you have the human element in there. But in this sense, it's just in Japan, it's not something that's expected. I have to throw that out there because, you know, I love everybody. Criticism of airports, except maybe this guy. So criticism of the airport system isn't just an individual crime, but a sign that the system is weak. There's a lot more on this, but I just want to give you a sense that in Japan, this requires systematic change, and it shows a breakdown of a system which starts to question all the systems. Now, nobody wants to be under the spotlight because it's so shameful in Japan. It's exponentially larger in scale than if this happened at, let's say, Heathrow or O'Hare Airport in the US. Been watching and enjoying your videos for a couple of years now. Domo arigatou gozaimasu. Keep educating us. Super interesting to see the difference between the US and the rest of the world. Jeremy, I think crime, I get this maybe from my friend Peter. He loves crime. I mean, he would be a master criminal, I have to be honest with you. As we're watching Spaceboat go past the Skytree, which in itself is a very touching image. Look at that. It's a Japanese image right there. Spaceboat. You can take these, I don't know, these instances of newsworthy stories, and instead of you just see what's on the surface, but if you dig deep down and you can examine how it makes such an impact in Japanese culture, and when you do each nugget of these episodes, I talked about a jewel thief in Ginza a couple of years ago. That's in my backyard. You can see Japanese society at work, and you start to understand about the culture, and that really helps, even as a tourist. If you understand how impactful a story is when it happens like this, and how it's different when it happens here than your own country, that's a really big step into coming to Japan and understanding how things work. So when an instance does come up, or you understand more about what's going on around you. This crime helps us understand a lot more about Japanese society and what's happening around us on a more general term. It really does. And I hope I can explain it in that way. And I'm so grateful, Jeremy, for the support there. Thank you. Charles F. Don't even get me started on that. I want to stay real positive. All right, I'm just going to say 1 minute on this, okay? I'm not even going to give it a full minute. Just 1 minute. It's not that I'm sleepy. It's that the sun is bright, all right? And the sun's not behind a cloud, but it's really bright outside. Is that better? There you go, it's bright. There was a JAL. It's not just JAL, all right? ANA has also had this. We call it ANA here in Japan, ANA. So ANA and JAL have both had issues with alcoholism with their pilots. And it seems like an old Showa era kind of mentality. You can see it in the flight attendants. You have flight attendants, almost like 99% of the flight attendants are female. 99% of the pilots are male in this. So it's like a 1960s image of the airline industry even today. And I think some of that culture might still be apparent, because in this day and age, to have a pilot that's drunk is the most embarrassing thing. And JAL, this is not their first rodeo down this road. Every single time you see a sense of shame. I gotta be honest with you. I mean, it's happened to JAL, but one of the reasons I don't fly JAL is because right now, and that can change because culture can change, but this thing really shook me when I saw that the JAL pilot was under the influence again. It's just disappointing. It really is disappointing. It shows me that the culture really hasn't changed much. They still have pilots they're hired with alcohol problems. Alcohol in general is a problem in Japan. I don't drink a lot, but I've drunk when I had to, especially when I had a lot of corporate clients and go out a lot. I would drink more. This was maybe 15 years ago. I was never a really heavy drinker, but there were instances where I had to go out and I would drink more than 3 drinks, and I would come back pretty tipsy. And it's a fairly safe city to do so. But there's a corporate culture where you have to drink when you're with somebody who's in power, who's drinking. If the boss is drinking, then you have to drink. If the boss says you have to drink, then you kind of have to drink. Not that, I mean, if you said no, it probably would hurt your career one way or another, but people just don't say no, even after the work is done. There's this old culture that the thing is, that's the thing that I love about Japan is also a thing that really is irritating and a thing that concerns me about Japan. These old world things, they're also probably what keeps Japan so safe and so orderly and such a wonderful country for the travelers and residents to live here. You don't understand why Japan is safe. You don't understand why Japan the way it is, but it's sort of that old thinking that hasn't changed for a while that keeps society in order, this societal pressure. Not everybody's a fan of it. And Joe, thank you so much. Joe, I appreciate the $20 from Joe Kunitz. I really appreciate that, Joe. When you start to understand that the thing that keeps Japan glued, the society glued together, is the thing that also is often the problem with the society. And the drinking is definitely, it's gotten a lot better. After the pandemic, it's gotten a lot better. People drink a lot less. The alcohol consumption in the country has gone down. Younger people are not drinking alcohol. This is a worldwide thing, I think. They're not drinking alcohol like they did in the past. I maybe drink 1 drink a month. I had my drink yesterday, or 2 days ago, when Kanai's father came and we had sukiyaki, and he drinks beer, and he poured me a glass, and I said, yep, I'll have a glass. So I had 1 glass of beer, but I probably won't for until October. I usually drink bubble water with a squeeze of lime or something in it now. But alcohol consumption's way down. Ad companies are opening bars in their ad companies to keep the booze industry. Because I know somebody works at one of the big ad companies, and they opened up like an open bar. But alcoholism is a problem. But when it's a bus driver, a taxi driver, somebody who has to operate a motor vehicle, let alone a freaking airplane. There's zero tolerance. And the fact that JAL keeps repeating this is a very big concern. And I have to give them the benefit of the doubt because there's a huge organization. They just have to change the culture. Maybe they need more female pilots. Maybe they need more male flight attendants. I'm not just saying this because, diversity is good and all of this, but I got a feeling that by breaking up the boys club, and it might stop some of these instances a little bit where, your job is being challenged by more people. Maybe the applicant pool isn't large enough anymore. There's crap that goes on in people's lives. Maybe they need more people questioning, are you okay? Because in Japan, the sensitivity of it, a lot of people don't ask me about my family, how I'm doing personally, are you okay? People try to avoid asking questions about your personal life, right? So you never really catch it, but maybe he's gone through a bad divorce, or maybe something happened with his kids. I don't know what happened, but you can't turn to alcohol to be an answer. But a lot of people do that, and it can't be an airline pilot. So there's my 2 minutes. That's like more like 5 minutes. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I'll take some questions here because I think it's a fascinating conversation. I've been watching you for years, it seems. Thank you, Jason. I have one guy, he's been watching me since before he was born. I don't even know what that means. I get a lot of, I've been doing YouTube since 2012. My first live stream was with Kevin Cooney in the year 2006. I'm not kidding. 20 years ago, with the great Tokyo Cooney, I did a live stream at Ikebukuro. It was 2006 or 2007, almost 20 years ago. And he was a real innovator, wasn't he? That live stream is on the internet. It's not great quality, but it's crazy to me that it's been almost 20 years since Kevin and I were in a live stream. Actually, it wouldn't have been 2006 because I wasn't doing Tokyo Eye. It was most likely 2008 or 9. So not quite. 15 years is still pretty significant. I've been doing the live streams for 15 years, if you counted that in there. So I appreciate that. Thank you. May I ask what type of hat is it that you normally wear? Alex, they don't make them anymore. It's from a company called Gorn Brothers, but I'm not a fan of their hats anymore. They've turned to fast fashion. It's like a case where the father leaves the company to a son, I think, and the son tries to find a way to make a quicker buck. And the quality of the hats has gone way down. So the hats that you see typically are like 5 years old, because it was around 2018 that the quality started to go down. But I used to get the hats from Gorn Brothers, and now you can't even find they call them flat caps. You can't even find them on the website anymore. The Amos and the Benjamin, what is it called? Benjamin Paul, I think. They used to be really good hats, but I sent them a message and asked them, why do you cut the hats differently? And they said, well, we changed the cut from the classic to a new one and we don't have any intention of going back to the classic way. I said, classic's a way just to say cheap, right? And they didn't respond again. So I was just trying to be direct, but I was just really unhappy. I'm gonna have to find a haberdasher. That's the word for a hat maker, I guess, to make my hats custom. But maybe I should design my own hat and sell them. I don't know. I wish I could get more from the old style. I don't know why they did it, but they did it. Cobra Bebot, is it true that you had the biggest podcast in Japan at one time? I did. I had? How do you know about that? Peso, are you spreading rumors again? It's actually true. I had the biggest podcast in Japan, #1, in 2006, 2007, 2008. It's 3 years. I was giving away more bandwidth than Sony Music because they were video podcasts. It was teaching English using comedy situations. I had a blue screen and about 100 different wigs and costumes, and I was talking to myself all the time. And I still get people, Japanese, that recognize me every now and then. It's rare now, but that was quite a long time ago, and I did that before. The bad thing with the podcasting, and I probably would have kept doing it, was that you have to pay for the bandwidth. So I was about $30,000 in debt in 2009, 10, 11, and 12. And then when I started YouTube, I was able to start making the money back. But I was in debt for a very long time paying bandwidth for podcasting. It's crazy, right? Thanks for asking about that. Maybe I'll do an episode on what I did before YouTube. It's because it's fairly interesting. Joe, good for you. Hey, Joe Kunitz is here. Good for you. Thanks again, Joe, from Wisconsin. Don't feel bad for not drinking. Drinking is not the way of life. It's a leisure, but not who we are. I'm still always going to have a drink, I think. I don't think I'm going to give it up cold turkey, but if I'm watching the Super Bowl, I'm probably going to have a drink. If I'm with some friends, I'm probably going to have one drink. You know, I won't do it too much. I'll probably have a glass of wine. But I think the older I get, the more I kind of understand. You know what? I think it's more when you have a kid. Yeah, when Leo was born, you have to stay in better shape. You want to be alive longer. You want to be healthier longer. And I mean, I do it because, you know, I'm with my friends and I'm social, and not so much for the way it makes me feel, because I think beer is too sweet. My palate has changed, but it's not a way of life. It's, you know, you can enjoy. I think everybody should enjoy a drink or two every now and then, but you don't have to do it because you feel that's a socially responsible thing. And I think that's something in Japanese culture that needs to change. And I think it is, actually, because the younger generation isn't getting into drinking. Empty calories. I get recognized more from you guys than I do from Japanese. But in 2008, from 2006 to 2009, 2010, I got recognized a lot in Japan from the podcast. The Prime Minister of Japan had a podcast, a video podcast. Back then, this is before YouTube really was taking off, okay? My podcast was more popular than the Prime Minister's. I'm still kind of happy about that fact. There were 3 people, and this is what Apple told me, because in 2008, I did a speech with Apple, and Apple Japan gave me some feedback. They said, if you just search the word John, you came up with John Lennon, John Kennedy, John Daub. I'm just saying what Apple told me back then in 2009. Those are the 3 biggest searches in Japan on Japanese iTunes in that era. So it's pretty cool. Maybe I'll do a live stream, kind of share with you what I did in the past, because it was fun. A lot of those Weblish episodes are in the vault, but I put a couple of them online like years ago. Guy GCG writes in here, thank you, from Thailand. I'm actually street drink after 38 in Japan. After learning about umeshu, having a nice day, from Thailand. Umeshu is so good. My wife makes it. She makes it, she stopped making it about 3 years ago. It's something you can make at home. You just put some ume plums in a jar, some sugar, water, and I think you put a little bit of a starter alcohol in it, and it makes umeshu. It's really good. I can understand why you would be enjoying that on a beautiful, nice day. That's a great drink. Yeah, umeshu is really sweet, but if you put in a little bit with water and ice, it's a very pleasant drink. You know, it's a very pleasant drink. Water and ice and umeshu. Hokusetsu on Sado Island in Niigata makes umeshu in oak barrels, which gives it an oaky taste. I highly recommend that you try that. That's the Robert De Niro sake brewery. You see, if you do go on a brewery tour, you're going to see like 10 pictures of him totally wasted with a huge smile on his face. Never mind the politics of it all. I think you get too much involved in politics, but it still when I go back and see there, it still makes me really happy to see a happy Robert De Niro, because you see him in the movie so serious. To see another side of him when he's grinning ear to ear, it's the greatest in the world. Any of those 2005 to 10 podcasts still up? I don't think it's on iTunes anymore, because I'm not paying for the server. I eventually got a sponsor, but it was too late. I was so far in debt. Bright Cove, which is a server company, the CEO of Bright Cove, I gave a speech about how iTunes was better than YouTube. I'm not kidding you. I got up at, was it a Pechakucha or I think it was called Tokyo 2.0. we had these tech speeches where guests would come in, and I was asked to speak, and I talked about how iTunes podcasts was a better platform than YouTube back in 2009 because the quality was better. And but I said that the bandwidth is just too expensive. In the audience was the CEO of Brightcove for Japan, really wonderful guy. He called me up. He asked for my card. I got it from him. I didn't think too much of it. And then he called me up, and I went into his office. He had an office in Ebisu. They just opened up in Japan, and he said, we'd like to give you free bandwidth for as long as you want it. So I started uploading my shows to their server, and we had another meeting 6 months later, and he says, we cannot believe how much bandwidth that you are taking from our servers. We didn't expect that because video was so much heavier than audio. He said, and that he was one of the people who told me that he was the person who told me that I was giving more bandwidth than Sony Music Japan. It was Brightcove, because I think their server they were also the server for Sony Music Japan at the time. He said, we're giving it to you for free, and you are paying, we're giving you more bandwidth than Sony Music Japan. And I was like, holy crap. So I was a thing before YouTube, so a little small thing. It was fun. I worked my butt off though. I went in debt making videos, but got fame sometimes does not mean fortune, folks. It absolutely does not. These are funny questions, but they have nothing to do with anything else. Walter, the videos are on YouTube. There are a couple of them that you can see on YouTube. I put them up. It's Weblish Tube, I think, is the name of it. One of them was a Dracula video I made about Narita Airport. That got over 1 million views on iTunes, and if we're talking at 2008, that's a lot of views. Nowadays, a 1 million view video is not a big deal. Back then, to get a video that went viral, that's a big deal because there weren't that many people no one had smartphones. Everybody that had an iPod video watched that. Everybody in Japan that had an iPod video, I think, downloaded Dracula's immigration song. I was teaching immigration English language for people, and I used my character Dracula entering Japan and having to go through immigration, being asked questions, and I made a music video. So you could see I was insane when I was in my 30s. Walter, that video is on YouTube. Unfortunately, it's not nearly as popular because it's not the same kind of content, but it's interesting. Just to round up the scandal, thanks guys for that, I appreciate it. Haneda is one of the world's busiest, most advanced airports in the world that relies heavily on tourism and inbound tourism. Any scandal on Haneda doesn't just damage the local trust, it risks eroding global confidence in Japanese efficiency, safety, and both are key to the Japan Inc. or the brand. Walter, you did not just subscribe to that. That's so crazy. Thank you, Walter. And make sure if everybody's watching, you're subscribed to my main channel, which is youtube.com/@Mark only in Japan. That a lot of you don't even know that you're not subscribed to that channel because it's new. But I found that, what is it, like 30% of the viewers are subscribed. They just don't know that they're not subscribed yet. In the West, airports already struggle with reputational issues, that's for sure. A single case might be dismissed as just another scandal. In Japan, it becomes headline news because it punctures a pristine image. This is so true. I think if this is a scandal, if this happens in a US airport, it's almost like it's expected, because so many of them have happened. In Japan, it is a massive black eye. It's a gut punch, all right, to the system. And it is an embarrassing and very shameful thing for, I think, everybody in Japan. I felt it too, probably not to the same degree. I think mine was more realistic shame. Like, I'm a citizen, I'm not a citizen of Japan, I'm a citizen of another country, but when something bad happens to Japan Inc. or Japan's brand, I feel it because my heart is here, and I want Japan to succeed. And when something hurts like this, it also hurts me too. So this young kid left a really bad, he really hurt a lot of people, more than just himself, but a lot of people in this country that care about Japan's brand internationally. That's my take on it. It's a hard one. All right, guys, I hope I could explain this in 49 minutes in a thorough way. Your questions are great, but I always find that most of you don't have questions that have anything to do with the issue, so I'll have to do another You Asked Me. Tomorrow, if anybody is interested in the JET program, there's probably a lot of people here. I'm going to have my friend and a supporter of one of the community members for a very long time, Laura, is going to be here. She is so interested in working here in Japan. She's visiting as a tourist. She's very interested to get a job here in Japan. She applied to be a JET more than once, and she was not able to get it both times. And I want to talk to her about her experience and kind of dig into this. So if you're a JET, a former JET, if you have questions about the JET program, you're thinking about getting into the JET program, leave it in the comments below. If you're a Patreon member, you can direct message me. I'd love to hear from you on Patreon. Please let me know, and we're going to do an episode on the JET program and just talk about it, a discussion with an applicant of the JET program who has been rejected twice, and to see if there's a way that she can alter her plans to get in. On the downside, and I think it's something that JET won't, it's a government agency, so it's a system. They don't age discriminate, but she is over the age of 40, let's just say. And that might play a part, because when you look at the demographics of who's in the JET program, there's not a lot of people over the age of 40, but that doesn't mean that she's not qualified to do this job. So let's discuss this in detail tomorrow. She's going to be here with me. I'm not sure what time we're going to do it, but if you leave me the questions in the comments, or you direct message me on Patreon, and you can join Patreon. You don't even have to pay. It's free. You can sign up on Patreon as a free member, and you can direct message me there. I would hope that you'd join the postcard club, but you don't have to. You don't. No, you really don't. If you do, you would get this postcard this month. It's a beautiful one. The Mysterious Castles of Shikoku. That is Matsuyama Bichan. Bichiyama. Is it Bichiyama? Matsuyama Bichan, right? Yeah. It's an old castle with one of the oldest towers in Japan. September, October, November, when the weather's still warm but the mornings are cool, a fog rises, a mist rises, especially on Shikoku Island. And if you're lucky enough in the morning, you'll get that picture because it's so high off of the ground. The mountain is the castle's on a mountain. It's a beautiful image. You get that like maybe 10 mornings out of a month, which is 30% of the time you can catch that shot. So you mean you're not going to catch it if the rain is falling, but you might. I don't know. But the days are warm and the nights are cool. So when it starts to warm up and the sun comes up, you get that mist, which is so mysterious. That's the postcard for this month. A Moomin stamp, which is a character from Finland that's beloved in Japan, is on it this month. And those stamps are very mysterious as well. That's why I picked it. Very Halloweenish, actually. But I appreciate it. You can contact me there. And we're going to do this live stream on teaching English in Japan, but more particularly in JET, because we're both two JET losers. I didn't get in the JET program either. I applied in '98. I'll tell you more about it tomorrow. We see Laura. So you can ask questions to Laura or me or about the JET program in general. I'll look it up. I'll ask some friends that are JETs. But if you are also a JET, contact me, because I'd like to talk with you about your experience, because I think it's kind of a cool program. Even though I never got into it, it's a cool program to get people to go into the countryside. And a lot of the JETs end up being really great YouTubers. Ask, everybody's friend Chris Broad. He was in the JET program in, I believe, a place in Yamagata that I don't want to say. So that's his hometown, all right? He was in a small town, a port city in Yamagata. And the port city in Yamagata, I believe they sent me a message to do an influencer job there. And I said, dude, you got to call Chris, because he's the one who lived in your hometown and he's one of the bigger YouTubers in Japan. Why would you contact me? You should call Chris. And a lot of JETs have gone on to be really good YouTubers because they have a love for the countryside and the country as a result of that. He's not from Sendai, Ario. It's from Yamagata. What is the name of the town? It's also It's also the biggest airport in Yamagata. I guess that would be the port. If you're going to Ginzan Onsen, you'd probably fly in there, although the Shinkansen is one port. I don't know why it's not it should be in my mind. It's also become a popular stop for cruise ships over the last several years. It's a beautiful little town too. Has he ever made a video on it? You have to. That's your hometown. You really Sakata, right? Sakata is a beautiful little fishing town that has like a samurai history to it. I know that the seafront has a tourist attraction there, and cruise ships stop in there now. The airport's quite big in Sakata, so that's one of the ones that domestic flights will go in there for the Yamagata area. Yeah, I got a contact from them to go and cover an influencer job. I'm like, I can't do it because that's Chris's hometown. You should call Chris. When I say hometown, it's always the first city that you worked in. My hometown in Japan would be, there's two of them because I worked when I first came here in two cities, Hiroshima and Okazaki in Aichi Prefecture. Those are the two places that Okazaki would be my first hometown, and Hiroshima my second, and Iwaki City and Fukushima would be my third. Those three cities I have a really deep love for because this is where I don't know, I grew chest on my hair as a resident of Japan, so to speak. Right? All right, guys, where is Sakata? Sakata is in Yamagata Prefecture. It's on the coast. It's between Niigata and Akita. The Shinkansen doesn't stop there, but it's a very beautiful port. It's a little bit off of the beaten path from Murakami in Niigata, which is famous for the salmon. It's about an hour and a half, I think, on the local train. It's a beautiful local train ride up there. If you do go to Ginzan Onsen, you can go to Sakata too. It's probably well off of the beaten path, and it offers a pretty good local experience for sure. It's not too far from Yonezawa, but Yonezawa, again, also Yamagata, but Yonezawa is more inland. Yonezawa is on the Shinkansen line, but Sakata is on the coast. So it's a beautiful little city. Yeah, I've been jealous. Chris got a pretty good first city, I think. You could get a lot worse than Sakata and Okazaki, that's for sure. And by worse could be even better. It just depends on your perspective, because sometimes the countryside is such a beautiful place. But you always have a great love for the first city and the first town that you lived in. Mine was Nagoya and Hiroshima, and Okazaki in Aichi Prefecture, Hamamatsu, Toyohashi area, Mikowa. You learn a lot. All right, guys. Thanks all for watching. I hope this was entertaining and educational. You learned something about Japanese culture by looking at its crime. And this was certainly an act that has shaken the trust of a lot of Japanese here. But I got a feeling Haneda Airport does things the right way. They're going to win people back. Kansai Airport has not lost one bag in its entire history, right? Everybody saw that story. Japanese airports are just on another level. That means the expectations are on another level. And that's what makes this story so devastatingly big. All right, guys, see you next time. Mata ne. Rain's supposed to come. I don't know what I'm going to do with the live stream if it rains, but I'll hopefully Laura and I will have good weather to discuss tomorrow. Leave me your questions. See you then. Mata ne.